All right, if you've been following along with me, we've been working out of this book. This is a book that came out last year called Celebrates with Quilts, and we're doing the Piece and Quilt Sampler. So we're doing a couple of blocks every month until we get done with all of the different varieties. So today we're going to be working on these 8-point star blocks. There's 6 of them in the pattern, but today we're going to make 2 together. So let's dive right on in. And I'll also add a link in the description to this video. It's just the 4 at a time flying geese method, and it's a little bit more detailed than what you'll find here. Okay, so I am going to use this cheat sheet again for Fat Quarter Shop. I just love it. I lost the directions. It actually came with my ruler, so I was trying to find a place online to find it, and I found this instead. And you know Kimberly, she likes to leave things a little larger so she can cut them down, and I am on that game plan too. So the first thing that we're going to do is take our big square, little square, right sides together. And it says to draw some lines and do some stuff to get it all lined up. But I found that this shortcut actually makes it a little bit faster. And I'm all about making things faster if it doesn't make them wonky. So I'm going to line up my 4 corners. Move my ironing board over a little bit. And then once I get all 4 corners on the same line, then I'm going to run 1 quick cut, and then I'm just going to pin it right there so that I know it's not going to shift. And again, this is right sides together. And then just put a quick pin in it so it stays, and then I'm going to put it on my machine. Now, these we're going to make 2 of, because in this pattern, not all 4 points are of the same color. So if you were just making all the polka dot block, then you could just use this one. But since we're making it with 2 different colors on it, I wanted to show you one of the varieties. So in total, we're going to make 6, but I'm only going to make 2 with you today. All right, so again, I'm just going to kind of eyeball it, line it up, and then use my ruler to sanity check. And once I like it, then I'm going to make a quick cut, pin it, and now we'll move over to the machine. Okay, so now we're just going to run these through the machine. We're going to get a 1/4 inch seam on all 4 of them, and then we'll be ready to make the fun part. Okay, and we're going to go press to the dark side. Now do remember, if you're using this flying geese method to make other things, the only reason we're pressing to the dark side on these guys is because of the way this block is going to come together, and the points are going to be our color. So if you're using the regular flying geese and your big square is dark, then you're going to press to the dark. But if you're using that flying geese method and your big square was the white, then you have to press towards the white on this step. Okay, so we're going to set the seam really quickly. And then just press towards, why am I lining them up this way? Old habits die hard. Okay, we're going to press towards the dark because our larger squares were dark. If you're using that flying goose method and you press and you have your larger squares in the lighter color, you're always going to press towards the larger square, even though as quilters, we often kind of want to press to the dark if we're going to press to one side. But this is just so all those seams can nest at the end, because there are quite a few seams in this bad boy. Oops. I wrinkled my corner. Not the end of the day, but because I'm on this weird station trying to reach to get it in the line of sight for you guys. I think I'm ironing instead of pressing. There we go. Okay, now this is where it gets a little bit weird. So if we were making regular flying geese, we would go opposites like this, and we wouldn't actually line up our seam. We're going to line up our corners. So our seams are going to be offset. Now we're doing it one step more interesting because we are making a block that has 2 colors. So we're going to make one of each color so that we have two different block styles. Okay, so I have my blue there, and now I'm going to go right sides together, and I'm going to offset, and then I'm going to sew that one there. And I'm going to sew this one here. So I'm going to throw a couple pins in these just because it's weird and I always want to nest the seams. It keeps me from moving it around. And then we're actually going to draw a corner, a line from corner to corner. And we're going to do that trick where we make it 1/2 inch apart so that we can sew down each side. And get 2 squares when we're done. Now again, this block is quite large, not quite large. It's a little bit larger than it has to be. So we're gonna have some room to cut it off, which is nice when you have a little bit of flexibility. And probably not the best idea to draw this on the design board because it's kind of squishy. All right, so that's one. And then we'll do this one. I'll just use the ironing board instead. And again, you know, I just throw these pins in here because I often will want to try and get those seams to nest, and that's not possible and not what I want anyways. Okay. And I say, I love these friction erasable pins. I know not everybody does, but I buy bukus of them. Like I said, we homeschool, so we're here with all of our homework a lot, and the kids don't always do well with pencils, and this gets us a way to write and pen. That does not look like I wrote it in the right spot. Better now than when I'm done on the machine. All right. I'm like a little woodworker here. I'm drawing what arrow to the right line. Pick that up in the shop. Okay. So again, I do have a little bit of wiggle room on this one, so it's not a problem. So I'm going to go ahead and sew those out, and we'll be... So I'm going to go ahead and sew down those 2 diagonal lines. Now onto my funky block with my extra special lines. It's erasable, right? I could have just taken it to the ironing board. Never would have seen it, but oh well. Okay, so now we're going to go press this to set the seams and then cut between those 2 lines. Set these seams by pressing, and then we're going to cut them apart. And I'm just going to cut right down the middle of each side. And there's one other teeny cut that we have to make on these guys so that they will press the correct direction. So when we finish and we press this open, I want this seam to go towards the dark and this seam to go towards the blue. So I'm just going to cut about halfway between them. I'm not going to cut my thread line, but I'm going to get close. All right, and then we're going to take these and we're going to press again to the dark. That's because we started off with the larger square that was dark. We started off with a larger square that was white. We'd be pressing towards the white. So we're going to give that a good press. And I'm just kind of coaxing those seams to lay the right way. I'm not really tugging on it that hard. Okay, and now comes the fun part. So now we're going to take our fancy little ruler and we're going to line these up and cut them out. So our white part is what's going to go inside the smaller triangle, and I'm making the smallest side on the small triangle from this Quilt in a Day ruler, and I'm just going to cut off 3 sides. And try not to burn myself on the iron. Okay, and then I'm going to flip the block around, and I'm going to line up with this back line, and that's going to give me the exact size that I need of my flying goose. All right, so we'll do the same thing on this one. We got our 3 sides, flip it around, line up with that back line, and 1 there. All right, now see, these are opposites, so that's going to come into play when we build our blocks in just a minute. Again, so white is our inner corner. I'm going to line up with the inner corner, hit 3 sides and rotate. Oops. Didn't get that one all the way. Okay. And then I'm going to line up with this back line back here. All right, so now we have our 4 pieces, and we could build our first block. I'm going to go ahead and cut the other 4, and then I will meet you right back here. And one other thing you can do if cutting that bottom side is kind of awkward, you can always rotate it and cut another 2 sides on that. And that's a little bit more safety cautious, you know, the way we should be, but do as I say, not as I do. Pretty proud of myself for not scraping the ruler across this board. You guys don't know how badly I want to do that. It's a force of old habits. So if you only do the 2 sides cut off, I double check, make sure you've got this other big triangle line is going to hit the side that still needs to be trimmed at the top. Just changed this blade out. I can't believe it's already dull on me, but it may be time again. Okay, so now we have our 2 sets, and we can go ahead and build out our block. So if you want to look back at the Sew Sampler guide, we're making this one and this one. So let's do this one first. Okay, so this one is going to put the polka dots. Why can't I talk and do this at the same time? Opposite. And this one was the bottom. And this one will go on the top. Okay, so we'll do just like that. And then our center of this square is going to be the polka dot one. And then we're going to grab 4 of our whites. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that is going to be our block. We'll do the other one. So we'll start with our flower in the center. And then this one, where's this one gonna go? Yeah, that's right. Okay. And then we'll put in our 4 whites. And then we can go over to the sewing station. All right, so again, the quilt's gonna call for 6 of these. We're gonna make 2 right now. I'll probably just go ahead and add all these together and chain them in a row. So I will start at the top. I found a scrap. I found a scrap that was attached. There we go. Just to keep things straight, I'm going to throw it back on this board and do the other one. So, same thing. And I am going to keep an eye on this point as I come across it, make sure I don't sew off that corner. Okay, so I'll double check that. I like the way it came together. I'm going to put it right back on this design board. And here's a little cheat. I'm just going to flip my design board around. So now I'm sewing on the easy side of the fabric again. I'm going to throw a couple pins in these just so they all stay together. There's my pins. Keep moving everything around today. So I'm going to just throw a pin in it so that I don't get on the wrong side or in the wrong order. And we'll head off on these. Looking for that point. Do the other one. Same thing. I had pulled it off the machine. I set it right back here in the middle. I'm going to flip my design board around, and then I know I'm working on this side. Okay, so double check, like my points, and we'll go over to the pressing. So on this block, just like any other, I'm going to set my seams, and then the way I pressed this was I pressed these geese, the flying geese to the outside, and these flying geese to the middle, and these flying geese to the outside. And that way, when we go to put our block together, everything is going to nest nicely. So let's go take a look at the machine. All right, so we've got our 2 blocks ready to go, and because we pressed those seams open or in the middle on one row and away from the middle on the other row, everything is going to nest nicely. I'm just going to throw a couple pins in it to hold those nested seams together, and off we will go. Okay, I'm going to just go ahead and chain piece these guys because that's how I roll. And I've got this one nested, and I'm going to feel as it comes through, make sure it stays nested, and the same thing on this guy. So if you don't want a pin, you certainly don't have to. Cut them apart. Cut them apart. Now I'm going to stitch this other side. And maybe if I pin more, I would be a better pinner. And if I were a better pinner, maybe I would have more to say about why you should pin. But I feel like I get the results I want most of the time without having to resort to that. All right. And there we have it. I'm going to head over to the pressing station and we'll see what they look like on the board. Okay, so on this one, we're just going to set our seams. Probably tired of hearing me say that, aren't you? And then on these, I like to press towards the middle because it just seems like things want to be the easiest that way. Actually, I said that. Yeah, that's right. Sorry. Having one of those days. Yikes, that was hot. Okay. And I'll throw a clapper on that. And do the other one. And these are all some pretty small pieces in here. So if you wanted to press all of these seams open, that might not be a bad idea. But for the flying goose method, I find that it's just easier to follow their instructions. Okay, so let's get a clapper on these guys. And I'll get the other block out. Okay, so there's one. I think they're super cute. And there's our other one. So yay, 2 down, 4 to go. We'll be there in no time. All right, that wraps up our block for the Piece and Quilt Sampler today. We've got 2 of our 4 blocks done. Again, these are the 8-point stars. I hope you enjoyed making them with me today. The Flying Goose method is definitely faster and more accurate for me, but if it's not the way that you choose to go about it, please do go and make it any way that works for you. I'd love to hear what your suggestions are. If you've got other ways for me to test and try out, I'd appreciate it. If you enjoy sewing along with me and looking at some of my unboxing videos, if you would like and subscribe, that certainly helps me out a ton. And until then, I'll see you next time.